Hello, Magic players, collectors, and investors. Got a long video for you today. A lot of stuff to talk about. First of all, a shout out to the West Enter boys, T's, not D's. They read a side story to Pawbo about Tezzeret, planeswalker that I'm very interested in, if you've been watching my opinion videos. I want him to survive, and spoiler alert, go fast past this if you don't want to hear this, is he does survive. But make sure that you watch that. I did a whole bunch of research, MtG Wiki on Tezzeret, and that was very, very interesting. I probably only read about half of it because I feel like where I left off on just past the plane with all the artificers, Kaladesh, sorry. Just past Kaladesh, I left off because I felt like I kind of knew the story after that, except for this side story to Pawbo I didn't know at all. It's really, really well written. I meant to get the title of the video and also the title of the author because I say read, but it was actually read to me, but I haven't read anything this good since Doctor Who novels. And like Doctor Who novels, even though Doctor Who can be watched by a 6-year-old kid, since this is a family channel, do not read the Doctor Who books because they'd be terrifying, very disturbing. They're meant for adults, definitely, a mixture of science fiction and horror. I would feel like the same thing for this story, that it's not really for age 13 and up. I would want to see people that are mature and brains fully developed listening to this story because it could be pretty disturbing, I think, to young people. Tezzeret was from Esper, the Shard of Alara. I just put that in there. Dual Brain MTG pronounces it Alara, which is maybe correct too. I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm just collecting my thoughts. Aside, I think in Dominaria United, they really missed the boat, they being WotC, when they developed the Phyrexian sleeper cards. I really think they should have made those two-sided cards. If you're not familiar with sleepers, the Phyrexians do this to you when you're unaware, and then on their trigger, you become a Phyrexian, so they can use you like a spy until they decide to activate you and have you do some other mission. Okay. Shout out to Solar Games. Mark did an excellent video today, and it is called, I thought I had it right up on the TV, but I guess I don't. But it's something about WotC doing something right for a change. He talks about how they're having a podcast now, and that's great. I haven't heard it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. He prefers, like a lot of people do, to have stories read to them. And I got to admit that if I have to read it digitally, like with a screen with dark letters and light shining through in the background, I don't like that as much as a regular book, and I prefer hardcover books. So I would prefer to have it actually published in paper form, especially a hardcover. But if it's only available on the computer, I would prefer to have it read to me. And of course, I'm always giving a shout out to Fantasy Geographique and EtherHub. They do such a good job. EtherHub at reading the story, it seems like, and fantasy geographic at just interpreting the story. Both are good. I like to watch both. There's things that you miss if you only watch one of them, so definitely watch both of those. Novels. Okay, I like the novels. The story was kind of disappointing, more the spark, but I like those idea of them putting it out in novels. I hope they continue to do this. Novels, paperbacks, used to be available in Kamigawa, or as West Enter Boys pronounces it, Kamigawa, which may be correct too, just like Alara may be correct for Alara. They both sound really good, so I'm not sure which is correct. Those bundles, which they used to call fat packs, or maybe it was even before they called them that, used to have those in there. They would have packets of cards, they would have a novel in there, and some other stuff that bundles would have. I think it was before they actually put lands in there, but I may be wrong about that. It may just be the regular amount of lands that come in a draft box. I'm going to talk more about that later. I sort of missed the boat on that because when I first started playing, $90 for a fat pack of Kamigawa was just a little bit too expensive for me, so I didn't buy those. A big, huge regret. I should have done it for the books alone, but I didn't. I like the lands in collector boxes, so that was a good reason to get those, especially for my showcase decks that I'm building. You can look back at the videos that I made on those. The stained glass lands and the Phyrexian lands that came in collector boxes. I really like those, especially in foil. I used to buy, I still buy, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I still buy the lands that are in jump starts, or I buy jump start boxes for a particular expansion. I hate this term, but a tentpole set or whatever WotC calls it. I call them the expansions, the regular expansions that continue the story. I like how there's lands in those sets. It's weird, though, that those lands are in Magic the Gathering Collection Builder as alternate, like, varieties, okay, when there just seem to be regular lands, but they're not in the set of the regular set. There's fewer lands in draft boxes, and this probably goes back to historically there used to be a lot more lands in packets than there is now, and players complained about it. But the fact that there is a lot more lands is probably the only reason that you can actually obtain, if you're willing to pay the dinero, lands from alpha and beta sets, because there was a lot of them. I want to mention something that's gone away, and I mentioned this before in one of my videos, but they used to have these deck builder toolkits for a really cheap price, like $20 or less. You could buy these deck builder toolkits that came with lands, and they came with a bunch of just regular cards that were determined already by them, not the most powerful cards or anything, but it would give you a basic set for building for a very low price. They discontinued that probably, I'm thinking maybe in Zendikar Rising, or probably a few sets before that, they discontinued those. But if you want to build a basic collection of the old sets, look for the deck builders toolkits. They don't sell very well. They weren't very popular, so I'm not surprised that WotC did away with them. But you can probably pick those up for as low as like $12, and you get like hundreds of cards, 200 some cards or whatever, I believe. And so that's a very low price. What's that, a nickel a piece or whatever? Really low price for those cards if you want to build a basic set from the old expansions. Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of unhappy with the set boxes. I feel like I don't really see myself getting anything really better than the draft boxes in there other than a bunch of foils. And I'm happy to have the foils, I'm not going to lie, but because there's less packets in there and now they've become more expensive where they used to be less expensive, I'm not sure if I like set boxes that much anymore. Sorry, I'm trying to read my writing. All right. Used to be the old starter decks would have a page in there, like kind of like a storybook like Mark talks about in the old bundles, which I loved also, but I made the mistake of recycling those because I didn't know where to put them. I saved some of them, but not as many as I would have liked to. I love to go back and read like the story from Tarkir and stuff like that. And I had all those old ones. I even had some from Alara, if you will, which I recycled, unfortunately. But also the commander decks come with a pretty nice story. It's just on one page, two-sided. And it used to be that the old starter decks would come with that too. So that's something that's missing because Mark was talking about things that WotC could do to improve their IP. And definitely all the paperwork that involves the story and gets the players engaged in the story will help with their IP. I agree with that. I wanted to talk about oversized cards in Commander. This is just a random, like, whenever I script something like this, I didn't really script it, I just wrote notes and I'm following off of that if I can read my writing. So that's why this is so random. I want to talk about the oversized cards in Commander. That's something that they don't do anymore, and I collect those avidly. They're hard to find because they're not shown in Magic the Gathering Collection Builder, along with the art cards are not shown or any tokens. So to determine what's out there is kind of difficult, although they're supposed to at least put tokens in the new version of Magic the Gathering Collection Builder. But I really like those oversized commander cards. And in fact, for the commanders that I wanted, for some of them, I would print them out on a printer and make myself an oversized commander card. But that's something that I wish they would do again. So basically, it's good that I say this on MtG Opinion 58 at least, is that I had a request from a viewer to say, just to talk about the history of all the sets that I've played in Magic. And 8 years is kind of a long time that I've been playing, but I also immediately went back and sought out all the old sets. As soon as I started playing Magic, which I always have for any game I've ever played, I've always tried to get the history of it. So I'm probably a pretty good person to do this. One thing that they are doing on the new Commander sets is, well, two things that they're doing. One of them is they're printing out these thick stock commanders so you can find it in your deck very easily because it's thick, and it probably won't be sleeved either in your deck, so that's a good thing. That was a really smart choice, and what's nice about that is that they fit into cardboard coffins that you keep your cards in, where those oversized things, I have to have a special box for those. So that's nice about that. So probably a good replacement, and I'll probably collect those thick stock commanders in the future, I would imagine. Another good thing about Commander, and I'm so glad they started doing this, is instead of reprinting some lands from just random, like they don't even go together, and then putting the symbol for Commander 17 or whatever it is on them, what they've started doing now is just taking land cards from the regular set, which I don't get as much anymore because, well, I'll talk about why I don't buy bundles now, or at least in the last set. So it's really good that they put lands in there from the regular set because I don't get enough to build my decks any other way. So that's a good reason to buy the Commander cards, along with the story and the fact that the cards are high quality. I missed buying all of Commander 11. It was just called Commander, like 2011 they released it. And I think it was 2 years later that they released Commander 13. I think they waited 2 years before they released the next one. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. So two good reasons. Those thick stock commanders are nice, and also the land cards that they give you. Okay, why don't I buy the bundles on this last set is because they had the complete version, which was $88 originally, and then they had the standard version, which was supposed to be like $40, right? What happened is when there was all the hype about the complete version and they ran out of those, they started selling the regular ones for $88, and I wasn't going to pay that. So that's why I ended up not getting any lands for Pawbo other than these other ways that I've talked about. But it's okay because I do these other things that they talk about. Okay, I have some more notes in here. Want to talk about Pokemon. Yes, I agree with Mark from Solar Games that that's pretty much a collectible only card set now, not so much a game. And there's nothing wrong with the game, and I liked playing the game, especially with younger people. But the problem is it's difficult to build decks to get the cards. I had the same problem with the WoW trading card game in that instead of 5 colors of magic and you just had to get enough cards to build your color deck, in WoW trading card game you had to build all these specifications for different classes, like assassination, rogue. Like assassination is a specification and rogue is the class. So it made it more difficult to build decks, especially for beginning players. So they would have to use the starter decks when they really had the desire to build their own decks, and they really couldn't with the cards that they bought because they didn't have enough cards. I feel like that's true for Pokemon if you want to build something like a dragon deck or something like that. And that's not really supported that well because it uses 2 colors of mana. It doesn't have its own resource. I call it mana, but whatever they call it. Okay, they don't have like a specific one. It's like a combination of 2. And then you get very few dragon cards in any booster box that you open. So it makes it difficult to build those decks. So that kind of got frustrating after a while. But things have changed with Pokemon too, so I'll have to look at it again. But my feeling is now it's pretty much just a collectible game. Friday Night Magic. Okay, the first local game shop that I went to, I had all these kids rounded up to play the World of Warcraft trading card game. I gave them all starter decks, and I wanted to go in and play in those game stores with the kids, and they kept changing the price on me. So, like, I would tell the kids that was $5 a piece, and then they'd come and they'd be, oh, it's $6 a piece. So I'd have to give them all $1 or whatever, you know. It just got frustrating after a while, and I gave up on that. The second game store that I went into, and I should probably be more tolerant than I am, but I wanted to buy some starter decks because I knew that they had commanders, or they had, not commanders, that they had planeswalkers at that time, and I wanted to specifically teach some beginning players how to play with planeswalkers. And they kept trying to bait and switch me. They kept trying to get me to buy their, those $30 decks, event decks. They kept wanting me to buy those event decks, and those don't sell well, so they were just trying to unload them on me, right? I mean, those event decks are great, and I mean, that would be good advice normally, because you get a bunch of rare cards and stuff in those and more powerful cards than normal. So that would normally be good advice, but I was telling them, I want to play with some new players. I want to teach them how to play with a Planeswalker, and they just kept insisting, well, those new players should play with event decks or whatever, because they could take those into Friday Night Magic and actually compete. But that wasn't my purpose, you know. So I don't like to be baited and switched, and that's kind of why I did away with that place also. So I kind of just play at home with friends. Mark talked at Solar Games about CEDH at Friday Night Magic. I think that would be great. He talked about how other people like to see people play the game. And I've had viewers request that I play the game, and my limitation on that is the camera that I have. I need to get probably just a camera back for my Canon lenses, and then I could do that, something that can stream onto a computer, which this one is too old to do that, or keep longer than 15-minute segments if I would upload them to the computer. Okay, I watch vintage Magic, so I like, since I missed this time, I like seeing people play with old Alpha and Beta and Four Horsemen cards, so that's what I'm really into, and I think I've given some shout outs on this channel to some channels that do that. I've never done drafting, so that's something that I've got to try. I've never done Pioneer. I can buy, it's probably multiples of all the decks, so I haven't wanted to pop $264 from the place that I buy old stuff from for the Pioneer, but that's definitely something that I probably need to do. Oh, I wanted to talk about Instagram. I love to go on Instagram and just look at the cards. It's really nice. I used to post on Instagram, but the reason that I pretty much only, well, always only post on YouTube now is because of the length of the video limitation. I love on YouTube that I can make a 30-minute video or whatever this turns out to be, and I can also make a 50-second video, and I can post them. The only qualm that I have, and this didn't used to be true, they changed this, is that I can't change the thumbnail on my 50-second videos, my shorts as they call them. So that's been a problem for me. Like on this recent video that I made, they showed actually the mat, not the cards. So it's like the picture doesn't even go along with the what it says it is, you know? So it's kind of like people are going to feel like it's clickbait or whatever, I feel like. All right, let's see. I think I got some other notes, something else to talk about here. Oh, the glossiness of art cards, okay? It's difficult to film those cards because they're so glossy. I don't know why they can't make them the regular finish of Magic cards. And then I've asked this before, please let me know in the comments. I've gotten some great comments lately, so I'm looking for more of that. Are you all willing to proxy your cards using the art cards? Like, I wouldn't recommend writing on the back, even though you could. I would recommend just slipping a thin piece of paper in there with how the card reads if you can't memorize it. If you can memorize it, and I do that with my cards that I buy, Black Border Revised in Italian, I just memorize the card text, you know, so I can read it to somebody when I'm playing the game. Let me know in the comments if y'all are considering using those art cards as proxies. And that's pretty much all I have. So 25 minutes. If you stuck till the end, thank you very, very much. Take care.